Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
On today's episode, we are going to answer a question posed by one of our patrons, Pass the Damn Ball. He asks, which first-year college football head coach will win the most games in 2022? And so we decided to just look at the Power 5 and Notre Dame coaches. So we've narrowed it down to the 7 most likely candidates. We'll give our thoughts on each one, maybe roughly how many games we expect each to win. Ryan, get us started with maybe the most difficult team to peg.
Yeah, for sure. Lincoln Riley at USC. It's just what do you expect? You got some transfers, a lot of good transfers coming in. You got Caleb Williams, the OU QB, coming in, which obviously is a huge boost. Then just how is his system going to fit in with the Trojans in year one? Is it just going to start firing on all cylinders right away? Is he going to be able to have an offensive line that he's kind of been accustomed to having at OU? Probably not, but can he still get it going? So there's just a lot of things that you just don't know. And who else are they going to get in the transfer portal? This could change, So they got a lot of room left, and Lincoln Riley's even said that. So this is a tough one. I don't know, but the amount of games I'm going to peg, 8 and 4.
I agree. That's right now. That would be the most likely number for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so no one's choosing USC for their answer here for the most wins.
No.
They're kind of all or nothing, but I'm not willing to bet
There's a chance that they just have to go 6-6. It's like,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to Brian Kelly at LSU, and USC probably is maybe the biggest wild card in terms of the wide array of possibilities, but I'd say LSU is kind of in that discussion. We don't even really know if what accent Brian Kelly's going to use come this season. Could be anything. But you never know. But no, they've fallen quite a bit since the national title team a few years ago. But they obviously still have some talent. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Max Johnson transferred away. Miles Brennan has battled injuries. Jaden Daniels transferred in from Arizona State. They got the highly touted freshmen, Nussmeier and Howard. They went for the transfer route to patch up some of the secondary, which loses a lot. They won 6 games last year and seem to be looking at about 7 wins, if you ask me right now. But like I said, I think there's a high variance with this team if everything aligns or doesn't in year one.
Yeah, I think the winner of this kind of question here is probably going to win at least 9. So hard for me to see that from LSU. That would be, I think, outperforming for sure. All right, our next option here is Mario Cristobal at the U, and he inherits a pretty good team from Manny Diaz. They won 5 of their last 6 games last year. They discovered maybe one of the best quarterbacks in college football headed into 2022, Tyler Van Dyke. Played a lot of young guys, so Miami has a chance. There's some question marks at receiver and in the trenches, so we'll see how Cristobal handles that. But hired a good staff. He's got Josh Gaddis as his offensive coordinator, Kevin Steele as defensive coordinator. The schedule, there's good and bad. They have to go at Clemson and at A&M, but really on paper, those are the only 2 games right now that you would say they're an underdog. So, it's overall, I think, pretty favorable schedule because I think the Coastal is somewhat weak this year. I think something around 8.5 wins is my expectation. So they're in the running, but they're not my pick for the most wins.
Okay, so you going 8 or 9?
Oh, I have to choose.
Pick a number.
I'm looking at my number right here. I had it at 8.59, so I guess I'll go 9.
Oh wow!
But
I wanted to go out on a limb and say Cristobal, but I just think the ACC is maybe a little deep, and they might run into a couple stumbling blocks.
So 8.59. That's getting pretty close to 9. So that's not your guy though, huh? No?
Not my guy.
Not your guy. All right. I have a feeling this is going to be more than one person's guy coming up here next. We got Brent Venables coming into OU.
My guy.
I think, yeah, my guy too.
Oh, all three of us.
Sweet. All 3 of us.
All right.
It's the hat trick. I mean, he's just set up probably the best for success. Of course, he's going into a program that is just constantly winning the Big 12. They didn't last year, but they easily could have. So they're just so accustomed to it. There's still going to be good talent level there. Yes, there were some transfers. They did lose Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler, Austin Stogner, a couple other pieces, but they did bring in a nice replacement at quarterback with Dylan Gabriel. Jeff Lebby, the offensive coordinator from Ole Miss, is coming in, so you got to trust him that he's going to probably know what he's doing, coming in, learning from Lane Kiffin. And it's they own the Big 12, so they're going to have one of the most talented teams in that conference. It's hard for me to imagine that they're not going to be a solid team. So I have them pegged at 9-3. That's what I predict their record to be. So yeah, I would say that's going to be the high too. So Venables.
Yeah, Venables held together that team pretty well. Brought in a good transfer class. You were worried about a mass exodus of transfers, and like you mentioned, they lost some, but they didn't get decimated. Like, they're still a lot of talent, and most importantly, so I think they're a top 10 team heading in next year, but most importantly, their schedule sets up really well. The toughest team on their schedule per SP Plus is 30th. So they only play one top 30 team. That's
Nebraska?
Baylor at 30th.
I mean, that's pretty rough.
I had them at 9.5 wins, basically.
Yeah, the good thing about Venables too, he's a defensive mind. They return a lot of production on the defensive side, so I think he can shore that defense up, match it with Lebby. Even if the offense isn't great, like they're kind of head and shoulders right now on paper ahead of the Big 12. Not saying they're just going to run away, but the way it stands today, I like him.
A team that's kind of been a thorn in their side a little bit. Iowa State's got to take a little bit of a step back with all the pieces they're losing. So that's one of the factors in that Mike was talking about.
Oklahoma State loses a lot. They lost some transfers. So, they're set up pretty well.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, moving on to a guy that I actually kind of thought would be someone one of us would take, Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. I can understand why people out there would take them as their pick to win the most games out of this group. We know, thanks in large part to him, the talent level is pretty strong. But the one thing, though, going against them for the Irish is they rank in the bottom third of the country in terms of returning production and 113th in offensive production coming back. So he needs Tyler Buckner or Drew Pine to kind of take the reins at quarterback, become an impact player there, because on the offensive staff, Tommy Rees returns, but outside of that, it's mostly new faces, so they would like to have some stability there. Freeman, he got one of the better defensive transfers in safety Brandon Joseph from from Northwestern. That helps replace Kyle Hamilton. I trust him with the defense. They should have one of the better ones in the country. And then if you look at the schedule, it's not terribly difficult. Game 1 is brutal. They play at Ohio State. But after that, it's likely maybe Clemson or BYU as we look at it at this moment. So I'm actually going to guess their over-under will be 9.5 wins. So I guess if I had to say, I'll say 9-3.
Yeah, I think 9 might be the most likely wins for them. So they were right behind OU for me. But I will say, if it came out at 9, the win total in Vegas, and I think I would bet under, like if I was getting kind of even money or maybe minus 110.
Yeah, it's
that Ohio
hard
State
to go
game 1 sets them up.
Yeah, you'd have to go 10-1 in the rest of the games there. I mean, assuming they lose at Ohio State, but I'm with you. I think 9-3 is probably what I would have to say if I like Trey mentioned.
All right, next we got Billy Napier at Florida. I guess this is the third team we've said is a tough team to project, but it's true. They were really good in 2020, of course. 2021, they started off very well, and they went toe-to-toe with Alabama, but really kind of tanked down the stretch. They ended up 6-7. Anthony Richardson looks to be the likely starter at quarterback. Emory Jones transferring, of course, so we don't know what to expect. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. He showed some great flashes, but he's still, somewhat of an unknown. And so let's say even if Florida, though, is one of the 15 or 20 best teams in the country, which is not a given, but I'd probably have them top 20, their schedule is so difficult that I think winning 8 games in year 1 for Billy Napier should kind of be the goal, because they've got Utah to start out. That's a rough game 1 going up against a always tough Utah team. At Tennessee is on the schedule, Georgia, at A&M. And, I mean, outside of Vandy, there are no gimmies in the SEC. The SEC East is – a lot of teams are improving in that side of the division. So
Carolina's getting better.
South Carolina, yep, exactly. So they beat Florida last year. Yeah, I think
There you go.
under 8 wins would be my bet for Florida.
Yeah, agreed. I'm guessing 7-5 for them, which isn't bad considering, who they're
And
playing.
to be clear, I think I would have them like high 7s as my sort of median projection or average.
Right. All right, let's move on to the last one here. We got Dan Lanning on the West Coast over there at Oregon. Bring in a transfer, Bo Nix at QB from Auburn. Maybe he'll be the guy, who knows. But they also have Jay Butterfield, Ty Thompson. So it's a pretty open race there. There's no guarantee that Bo Nix is certainly going to win it. But they do lose some key pieces from last year. Kayvon Thibodeau, Travis Dye, Verone McKinley, Mikhail Wright. Some major pieces that are gone now. And of course, a whole new staff to work with on top of that. But just because they lose those guys, they still brought in a lot of talent. There's not Cristobal's not leaving the cupboard empty for them. So I will say I'm not the biggest fan of their offensive coordinator hire, Kenny Dillingham as the OC. It's kind of been a little meh to me throughout his career. But they still have a lot of talent, and the Pac-12 isn't all that strong. Especially up in some of the teams up in the north. So I'm going to say I'm going to put it at 8-4 is what I would probably put them at, but not super confident in them.
Yeah, Georgia and BYU in the non-conference is pretty tough. So
yeah,
I think you're probably right on there. But that'll do it. Those are our 7 options there. Let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win the most games out of all those teams. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe if you like college football. We're trying to grow the show, and we've also got an audio podcast if you'd like to listen to that. We had this week we had a sportsbook episode where we set odds on tons of different questions kind of like this. So if you enjoyed this, you'll probably enjoy the podcast. So thanks again. See you next time.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.